Hi, greetings, it's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and today I want to talk to you about adaptive leadership. Now, adaptive leadership is one of the newer of the leadership theories out there, and it really gives kind of a holistic view of what today's 21st century leaders really should be doing in order to move organizations forward and to help their people be their very best. And if you really think about the goal of leadership, isn't that what it really is all about? Now, adaptive leadership is a little different than some of the other leadership approaches because it really gives a framework to really take a look at some of the actions that leaders could be doing in order to move people forward. And so it really takes a more active role at really looking at specific behaviors and helps give us some perspectives to consider if we want to be better leaders. I love the term that Heifetz uses. He's one of those brilliant people from Harvard that really took a look at contemporary leadership and what's needed and said, hey, what are the most effective leaders doing? And with technology, as you can imagine, and being in a global marketplace, leaders truly must take a look at what's working and what's not working, and recognizing that every time you take a fix of something, there are probably other related systems that are in place that also need to be looked at. And it also takes a look at sometimes there are changes that need to be looked at that are technical and adaptive challenges, and then there are just simply adaptive challenges, and being able to identify the right kind of challenge really is key to really understanding how to apply this leadership. So this adaptive leadership style really incorporates 4 different viewpoints. There's the systems perspective, which takes a look at complex problems with its interconnected parts. Then there's the biological perspective, in Heifetz's words. And so that means that we need to consider how people develop and evolve by having to adapt to internal cues and the external environment. So things are happening, people need to do something differently. Then there's service orientation. And that really suggests that leadership serves people by diagnosing their problems and then prescribing possible solutions for those problems. And then finally, the 4th is the psychotherapy perspective, which really takes into consideration that people need to adapt successfully when they face problems directly, and then distinguishing between fantasy and reality. Sometimes we create our own stories about things, and that really is important to consider. And we can justify what we're seeing all the time with evidence, but do we really know what the reality is versus what's not reality? And so often associated with perspectives that are often conflicting is internal conflicts, and though that's a natural result when people see things differently. And so being able to adapt your attitudes and your behaviors successfully in order to navigate conflict and be able to understand what's real and what needs to be done. So pretty simple, right? So this theory includes administrative, adapting, and enabling leadership. It really has a focus that encourages each of us as leaders to always be learning, to be creative, and to really learn to adapt in complex organizations. The older organizations get, the more systems are involved, and there's always niches that are emerging that leaders need to consider, and then old markets that they also need to consider getting out of. And so, as you can imagine, change is really kind of a complex thing, because you change one thing, it may mean that other things need to change. And that's what I love about this model, is it really takes a look at different areas of an organization, and then it suggests what a leader should do. For instance, situational challenges. The first situational challenge that Heifetz suggested are technological changes. Another one is technological and adaptive changes or challenges, and then adaptive challenges as a whole. So, the behaviors that leaders really must do is, one, get up on the balcony. So that's Heifetz's term, and it's kind of a cool term because it really suggests that you get outside of what's going on and you take a view of what's taking place. If you really understand what's going on, then you can do step number 2. Identify the adaptive challenge. You know, what's challenging here that needs to be changed. 3, we're humans. We're implementing change. We're involved in change. Regulate the distress. 4, maintain disciplined attention. What you focus on is where you get your results. 5, give the work back to the people. People are the reason why organizations are successful and failures. As leaders, we hire the best. We need to cultivate workplaces that help people be successful at doing their work. And then 6, protect leadership voices from below. So everybody at every level can and should be able to make a positive difference. So we need to be able to listen to the voices and honor people who are sharing ideas that can help make our organizations better. So let's define some things. Situational challenges, technical. Problems that are clearly defined with known solutions that can be implemented through existing organizational procedures. So, you've got some software that doesn't seem to be doing what it needs to do. Simply, a manager can go to the IT department and have that software adapted in order to get it to work the way that it needs to work. Simple fix. That's a technical challenge. Technical and adaptive. Challenges are clearly defined but do not have straightforward solutions. The leader and followers both tackle the problem. So for instance, a hospital wants to change from a traditional approach to care for patient-centered culture. Administration can offer training on how to involve patients in their own care. Medical staff and patients and families need to accept the change and learn how to implement it. There you go. Technical and adaptive. Adaptive. Problems that are not clear-cut or easy to define. You know, in the hospital industry, hospice care, and uncertainty for parents or patients and families about how and when the patients will die. Many questions about dying process, the loss, what loss means, how to prepare for it, and cope with it. So, a lot of unanswered questions. Leader behaviors. You know, let's talk about getting on the balcony, stepping out, finding new perspectives right in the middle of the challenge. You know, moving back and forth as a participant and an observer. Identify adaptive challenges. You know, analyzing and diagnosing challenges and distinguishing between technical and adaptive challenges. You can't give a remedy for something that is adaptive if the problem is really technical. So you can fix technical changes with the right expertise and authority. Adaptive challenges really has to consider, you know, the people's emotions too. So that's a big piece. Is the people piece is always a huge consideration because people are not machines. You simply can't fix them like you can like a robot or other machinery that breaks. You have to be able to get people to see things differently, understand the phenomena from their eyes, and then be able to, you know, fill that gap. So different people have different levels of commitment, and ultimately, you know, there's going to be conflict when people are interacting and they feel differently about different things. So in order to get beyond that, people need to be listened to. You know, people and consider genuinely, not just paying lip service to it, but genuinely understanding it. Then we also need to be brave and do what Heifetz says is speak the unspeakable. When there are ideas that are unpopular or conflicting perspectives, we've got to address it. Very often people are afraid to discuss, skills that they don't have, or being affected by age, or not being liked by a manager, and they have to be brought up. And sometimes people just avoid work altogether, refusing to confront an employee because they lack skill can make the company. So very often people won't do work out of fear, and sometimes that fear is from working with people that look differently than them. So number 3, we need to regulate distress. Help others recognize the need for change and not become overwhelmed. Monitor the stress, keep things productive. Create an environment where people want to give their best. Make sure people have the right direction and protection and orientation and the right conflict management skills in order to create productive norms. And we also need to make sure that we're relating personal distress. As leaders, we can't be stressed out or we won't be giving our best. And what about employees? Are they giving their best or are they stressed out too? Number 4, maintain discipline and connection or attention. So encouraging people to focus on the tough work they need to do and helping people address change and not avoid it. You can't ignore a problem and it won't go away. Sometimes problems have to be hit straight on. Give the work back to the people. Too much leadership and authority can be debilitating. So decrease people's confidence to solve problems on their own and suppress their creative capacities. Allow people to be their very best. Help encourage them to give their very best and make sure they have the right resources to do so. Number 6, protect leadership voices from below. Being open to new ideas of people and recognize that some people may have been marginalized. And when people are deviating from group norms, bring them back into the fold. Help them feel like they're genuinely important. So this clearly is a leadership approach that involves lots of communication. Lots of, like the name suggests, everybody needs to be able to adapt to the situation and create positive change. And so this is a leadership theory that is all about leaders taking a look at what goes on, recognizing who's doing what right, and helping bring people into the fold that need changes to be made, and making sure that you're addressing the changes from the right perspectives, and you have all the right perspectives. Doing the right solutions, adaptive versus technical, is really key here. And so technical changes can be changed with the right authority and right expertise. Adaptive changes is really about making sure the right prescriptions and actions are taking place in order to move changes forward in the most positive way. So that in a nutshell is Heifetz's adaptive leadership theory. I've given you a lot to consider, but it really is about recognizing that change is going to happen and how you deal with change from an internal perspective, looking at why change needs to be done, and then finding out who does what and making sure you have all the right information in order to make that change, and then managing the people appropriately with leadership that helps people take a look at their belief systems, make sure they have the right skills to adapt properly to the change, and then moving forward with the change. All right. Thank you so much for your valuable time and consideration. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Have a great day, because only you get to choose how you feel about it. I'm Dr. Paul.